Hey everyone, welcome back to Papa's Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how to do a glass etching with a diamond drag bit on the CNC machine. And this is the results that I got from doing this on glass. Glass is a little bit different than anodized aluminum or even brass. There's some different settings that you need to do, not with the CNC machine and the software, but actually with the drag bit itself. And I'm going to show you in detail exactly how I set up this whole project to be able to etch the glass on the CNC using a drag bit. I want to do an etching of the Lord's Prayer on a sheet of glass. Now this glass is going to be set up in the VCarve Pro as a single-sided job, and this is going to be on an 8 by 10 sheet of glass. The thickness of this really does not matter at all, but I am using the material surface as my 0 position, and I'm using the center as my XY0 home position. So everything else is going to be standard. I can close that out. And what I did is I went to the King James Version of the Bible, to Matthew chapter 6, verses 9 through 13. There you'll find the actual Lord's Prayer. Then I just went to the text and selected my text and typed it out. I did not want to go to the Google search and look for images of the Lord's Prayer. What I wanted to be able to do is use the text and a font that was already in the software, because I knew that would be the clearest and the sharpest image, and that's what I did. Now that I have this done, I also wanted to be able to have the hands in prayer. Now I did type out the hands in prayer, and I did want the black and white version, and so I went through and took a lot of these, and we could even further do this and do this as clip art. And now you can see what we get. And I want to do one more thing. I want to be able to do this as a free. So now we have the different ones that I can look at. Once I pick out the one that I wanted, I just copied the image and brought it into the VCarve. And you can see there's many different ones to be able to choose from. So for an example, if I take this one right here, I can just right click, copy the image, and bring it directly into the software. Then I'm going to right click and hit paste, and there's the image. Now this actually would be a unique way to be able to do the artwork, and that's something I've actually thought about. But for now, what I'm going to do is take this image and slide it out of the way and get to an area where I can actually work on this. So I can highlight this image now and go up here to the trace bitmap. I'm going to select black and white. I'm going to leave all of this alone. I'm not going to change anything at all. But let's take a look and preview this. And I think that's going to be a lot of good detail. So I'll hit apply. And then I'll close this. And now you can see the image that it actually copied. So I can take and I can move this over to this area. Now at this point, I can just close this out because I do not need it anymore. And I'm only working with this one. Now the next step on this is just to be able to reduce it down. And what I'm going to do is just ungroup everything. And then I'm going to highlight it, reduce this down to the size that I want, and then slide it over where I wanted to have it placed. And that was as simple as it gets. But now that I have the image in place, I don't need this one anymore. Let's just get rid of it. But I did want to show you exactly how I did it. So now I have all of this finished, and I'm ready to be able to engrave it. When you engrave this, you don't want to engrave on the surface. You want to be able to have a smooth surface. So what I want to do is take this whole entire thing and then do a mirror. So we're going to flip this, and we're going to flip it horizontally. And now I have the image reversed on here. So that way I can engrave this. It'll engrave it on the back side. When I flip it over, the glass is going to be nice and smooth. Let's go now over to the Toolpath menu. Now over here in the Toolpath operation, I want to do the quick engraving toolpath. And for this, we'll use the 90 degree, which is a 45 degree tip. And we'll select that. And you can see its engraving is a 90 degree point, but this angle, when you set this up, is actually the 45 degrees. So this is your 90 degree engraving bit. Now this actually has a pass depth of 0.02, and I want to be able to change that. I do not want that at a 0.02. But what I can do is come over here and just edit this bit, and that will change it for one time. 0.05, we can do that. Okay, and we'll change this to the 0.05. That way it will do it in one pass. Now I want to be able to do two different types of engraving. The actual smaller print I want to be able to do as an outline, and I want to be able to do the rest of this as a fill. So what I want to do is highlight this portion right here. Then I want to come through and select these areas that have the bolder print. Okay, now if you'll notice this, these are still in the text format, and I need to change that so that I can actually highlight just this section. But while we're here, let's check out the rest of this. So everything else will be fine, but I do need to go back and change these two lines. So let's go back over there. And if I click on this, you notice it highlights the whole thing. So I need to come up here to this icon right here, select it, and what I want to be able to do is change that to the actual curves. And you see now that it's a dotted line. So now I can actually take this section and group that together. Same thing with this line. If I click on it, you see it's a nice solid line. So that means it's still in a text format. So I'll select it, and you see now it's changed into the dotted line. So now we'll do the same thing. I'm going to highlight this and group it together. That should, I believe, solve the problem. So let's go back over here now to the toolpaths, and let's select everything that we need to have selected. So I want that done. Then I'm going to come down with the Shift key held down, Our Father. Then I want to put this, and Heaven. And then I want to come down here to the word temptation. We'll do Kingdom and Thine and the Amen. And I believe that is everything that I want. I want that in the outline. All of this will be in the outline. I don't think that I had missed anything. So at this point, we'll set this up now. I want to be able to close out of this and come over here to the engrave. And I want to be able to select this bit. I want to be able to have the pressure at the 0.05. This is going to be the fill. I want to set the step over at 0.01, and that will be able to create just a small hatch. And it will be at a 45 degree angle, and it's going to be a cross hatch. So then I don't need to do anything else. The last step is to be able to create a name. So I'm going to put in Phil, and this is the Lord's Prayer. That'll help me to be able to identify this. And of course, this is the 90 degree drag bit. So I want to be able to put all of that information in there so that it's easy to find. Once I have the file name in place, all that's left is to be able to come down and hit calculate. Now if we zoom in on that, you can see how that gives me the little bit of a crosshatch. And in this area up here, you'll see just a little bit of cross hatching in there. I think that will look good. All right, at this point now, we have this one's done. Let's go back down and highlight everything else. So I need to catch the math through 6, 9 through 13. As I select these items, you can see some of them show up as a solid line. Well, those are actually still in the text format, whereas that word name was not. That had been converted over to the curves. Now, I could take the time and go through and change all of that, but it's really not necessary. As long as I hold down the Shift key and move through this whole process and select all the different items, it'll work just perfectly fine. Those items that are still in the text format, all I have to do is just highlight it in one place and it highlights the whole line. Those items that are in the curve format, well, I need to be able to highlight all of those sections. Now I'm going to highlight the hands also, but I'm still unsure about that. I may come back and do this as a fill. But for right now, all of the text that I want to have as an outline is done, and I have verified and made sure that I didn't skip anything. I want to zoom in real close on the hands, and in looking at this up close, I think doing this as an outline would be a mistake. So I'm going to unselect this, and I'm going to go ahead and set up the toolpaths for the outline for all the remaining text. So it's back over to the toolpath menu and select the quick engraving toolpath. We'll select the outline, and we'll want to verify that the depth and pressure is the same, and that's at the 0.05. So at that point, that's really all that's necessary. So now I'll just type in the file name and hit calculate. And again, you can name this anything that you want, but I want to put in here outline, Lord's Prayer, and the 90-degree drag bit. Okay, with the name entered, let's just hit calculate, and we can see exactly the results over here on the previous screen. I can zoom in real close, and you can see exactly what it's going to look like. Let's go back and add the hands now to the fill. So I'm going to turn off the outline. I'll turn off this one, but I'm going to go ahead and click on the fill, and we'll make the modification. The only thing I really need to do is just highlight the hands. Everything else is already highlighted. So we'll come down to the bottom, hit calculate, and you can see how the hands now has been added into the toolpath for the fill. And I think that's going to look real good. Now I'll turn on the outline so you can see the whole project, and everything is looking real good. So at this point, all that's left to do is to save the toolpath. So let's scroll down, close out of this, and we're left with this menu right here where we can select the toolpath and we can save them. You can see that both toolpaths are grouped together. I have both of them highlighted, and that way everything will be done. Of course, the fill will be done first, followed by the outline, and it'll be all one smooth operation. So let me scroll down just a little bit to get to the tab that says Save Toolpath. I'll highlight that, and it'll bring up this window. Now it's important to know you can save this wherever you want to, but in my case I actually have a thumb drive. I have a folder that's set up in the thumb drive for the engravings, and then inside of that I have another file folder for the large prayer. And that way I can put everything into that one folder, and it's easy to find when I'm ready to go out to the shop and carve this. Of course, I'm going to name this file so it's easy to find again, and I have it just set up as two toolpaths, fill and outline and Lord's Prayer. That way, very easy to find when I'm ready to load this file in the shop. I'm also going to go back into the software and save the file itself. That way, if there's any changes that I want to make in the future, I'll be able to have that in that same thumb drive in the same folder. And yes, I do save the file often, so at this point all I need to do is recognize that yes, it's asking me the question, that it already exists, and I'm going to hit yes, and it will write over and use the same file name. In looking through my glass supply, I actually thought I had a piece that was 8 by 10, but unfortunately this was the closest piece that I had, and it's actually 9 by 11. So we're just going to make a couple of quick cuts and be able to get this down to size. And of course the first thing we need to do is get all of this dust off of it so we can make a good clean cut. Before you cut glass, you always want to make sure that it is completely clean. Now you also want to be very careful with these edges. These edges are extremely sharp, and if you rub your fingers along that edge, I can pretty much guarantee you that you're going to get cut. So you need to be very careful when handling the glass, and don't let your fingers slide down the edge of this glass. And of course I'm going to clean both sides of this, and I want to make sure that the surface that I'm cutting on has no debris underneath it, because any debris underneath this glass when I try to cut it will probably break the glass. So I'm going to wipe off the table really good. Also, ideally I would love to have a piece of carpet down here, but I don't have that. So now I have both sides of the glass clean. The surface of the table is clean. So I can actually set this down now and measure this. Remember I said this was 9 by 11. I'm just going to take a Sharpie marker and mark this at 8 inches. Now this glass cutter actually has a reservoir. I can take this off and pour oil in here. But I really don't want to do that because I'm not cutting glass on a regular basis, and I really don't want to store the oil in there. So as a substitute, I have a container with just a little small bit of oil down at the bottom of it. So I'm going to put this roller down in there so that it gets oil onto that tip. And then I'll line this up, and I'm doing this left-handed so that you can see it better in the camera. But I have this where I want it. So now I'm going to score this. So now I'll take this and I'll put my fingers right at the edge of this score line and just bend down. And that breaks the glass off very easily and cleanly. And I'm going to rotate this, and we're going to do the same thing. I need this set up for 10 inches. And we'll do the same thing again. So this shows, yeah, I'm working left-handed, and I'm not left-handed. So one smooth score line, even pressure all the way down is what you need. Then we'll take the glass the same way, and I'm going to pick it up this way right there so as you can see that in the camera, and then I'll just bend down and it breaks off, and that will give you a perfect break just about every time. Now that gives me my 8 by 10. I'm going through the homing cycle right now, but you also see that I put on a rail on the X and the Y axis to be able to support the glass. We've gone through the checklist now, and I've just loaded the file. I also have my safety glasses on, and I'm ready to be able to carve. The last step in the checklist was to load the file and verify that this is the correct file, and it is. So at this point, I am ready to be able to come up to this little icon that says Run Job, and let's see how this engraves. Okay, I've started the engraving now, and I also put just a little bit of lubricant onto the glass to be able to help protect the drag bit. But the one thing that you notice, it's really not etching the glass at all, and there's a specific reason for that. Now, we'll say this, all of the settings in the computer are correct. So the software is doing its job, but we need to make an adjustment on the bit itself. To be able to effectively etch the glass, you need quite a bit of the downward pressure. And right now, the bit is the issue. And let me show you exactly how I correct that. Okay, it finished doing the two tool paths. And as far as the fill, it actually did pretty good. However, the line for just the outline of the letters did not do well. Now I want to point out one thing with the drag bit. And if you look right up here at the top, you have the little Allen screw, and you can actually tighten that down to increase the tension on that. And that's one of the things I'm going to adjust, is to tighten this down. There needs to be more tension on this because it did not score the glass well enough. So even though doing the fill text, it actually did kind of an okay job, it really wasn't what it should have looked like. By increasing the tension, I should be able to get a much better etching and to be able to get the lines to be able to show up. Now what I've decided to do also is make another change. I'm going to put fill for all of the letters. Now I went back in and actually changed everything to the fill, and I saved another tool path. Now at this point, I'm going to engrave this whole entire project again, and this time we'll do everything with the fill. In addition to that, I did increase the tension on the drag bit, so hopefully that will put more pressure on the glass. So at this point, I want to come down and close this, and then I want to take just this one, and I want to be able to save just that tool path. And that's going to be the Lord's Prayer engraved fill 90 degree. So we'll save that. Now I'm also going to save the file itself. That because I've made changes, it's time to be able to save it. And of course I save it at the same place on the thumb drive. So now I have a copy of the original file should I need to make additional changes. And I have the tool paths all on the same thumb drive in the same folder. Bring this back up for the Open Build software. And I want to reload the file. That's going to be open a G code. And this time, I want to load this one right here. We'll open that, and that will change the look of everything. Put the bit back into the machine and seat it using the paper. And now we're going to engrave this whole entire project one more time. We already have it at the 0 position right in the center, so nothing else needs to change. You can see that I just moved right back to my 0, 0 position, and we're ready to run the job. So far, that's looking good. So I'll check back with this in a few minutes and see how it's doing. And I put just a real thin coat of the oil over this, and you can still hear that it's engraving. By increasing the pressure on the drag bit itself, that made all the difference in the world. We're actually getting the glass to truly etch now using this drag bit with the increased pressure. And again, there was no changes necessary in the software. We just needed to make an adjustment on the bit. Now this is important when you're etching the glass and perhaps some other materials. The brass itself that I had done in the previous video probably could have used a little bit additional pressure of the drag bit itself. The anodized aluminum that I had done was perfect with the previous setting of the drag bit. I'll do some further testing to see how it does with the increased pressure. But now that I know just how much pressure that I need, I can get an idea of how tight or loose that Allen screw needs to be to provide the correct pressure. I'm not sure just how well you can see this in the camera, but here, me in the shop, is looking really, really good. The next challenge is going to be able to remove the glass from the wasteboard without breaking it. All of the engraving now is finished, and it's time to just be able to clean up the glass a little bit. And this is by no means the final cleaning. This is just to get the bulk of the oil off and the glass residue off of the surface of the glass. I'm going to use a putty knife to be able to slide right underneath the glass. And remember this, glass doesn't bend. If I put too much pressure on it, the glass is going to break. So all I'm going to do is just very carefully slide the putty knife underneath the tape and underneath this glass to be able to break that tape loose from the wasteboard itself. Now this will take just a little bit of patience, and quite frankly in the future I'll probably use less of the glue and the tape, because this is really more than what was necessary. I know that there's a number of you out there right now that's watching this video that's saying, when is this glass going to break? Because I am putting just a little bit of pressure on the glass, but quite frankly the majority of the pressure is on that tape, just separating the tape from the wasteboard itself. So the first piece of tape is released, and now I can move to the second piece. Whew, wow. Okay, the tape is now released and I can remove the glass. Now for the easy part. Removing the tape from the glass is very easy. And now I can actually clean up the glass and get all of the fingerprints and the remaining oil off of the glass itself. And we can finally take a look and just see how well that the etching was done. Okay, I couldn't resist. I grabbed a piece of the black mat board and put the glass down on it just to see how the etching looked, and I'm extremely impressed. I'm very happy with the way this turned out. Okay, so at this point, my curiosity is satisfied. Let me go ahead and get everything cleaned up now so that you can actually really see this without all the fingerprints and the oil on the glass. This right here that I thought was a crack is not. It's actually a scratch in the glass that I did not catch when I cleaned it initially. And I still need to decide now what type of background do I want to use. Do I want to use the black mat board or a different color paper or something else? I think actually I'm looking at felt. I think using this blue felt as the backboard for this is going to look a lot better than the black and the black mat board or paper. Well, as it turned out, the frame that I have is actually a dark green. So a dark green felt is going to be used to be able to frame this, and I think this still looks fantastic. The detail in this is absolutely amazing. Now set this up to do a 45-degree crosshatch, and you can actually see those little tiny details in this engraving. I wanted to get up close so you could see this detail of even the cross-hatching is absolutely phenomenal. I love how this turned out. The praying hands with that detail is just awesome. Thanks a lot for watching this video today. I hope that you was able to learn something. And if you did and you found this information useful, I hope that you will give me a thumbs up and subscribe right down there below. And also take a look at this video right up here where I actually showed you step by step how to do the engraving using the drag bit on the anodized aluminum and using it with the brass. You're not going to want to miss that. Now, in the upcoming videos, I do plan on doing this with the acrylic and actually making an LED light with the acrylic. So until next time, guys, I'll see you real soon. So bye-bye, everyone.